Hello and welcome each and everyone to Soul Vibes to I think it is episode 26. So we've been having these for quite a while, and for those that are listening for the first time, that joining for the first time, whether you're watching now or later, um this is just we discuss, well, I discuss and talk and channel all sorts of different things that have to do with embodying soul within yourself, like how the effects and all sorts of things, whatever is relevant in the current energies of the time, and also the effects that has onto your life, on others around you. There are so many different things that we never, even a few years ago, 10 years ago perhaps, or 15 years ago, I certainly had no idea what to expect. And it is so incredible, this journey. Really, it is of awakening, of coming back to one myself, coming into realization that I am spirit also, or rather that I am spirit having an experience in these physical realms. um, it's such an incredible journey, and I would like to invite each one of us, each one of you, to come into your own space, into wherever you are, because that's where it all always starts, and it is, and it ends, doesn't it? In this now moment, being wherever you are, breathing in all that is around you, all who you are. And when I kind of do these things, I often, notice, and or especially if I've had, let's say, a busy day, or I've been out among the people with lots of energies, all sorts of different energies. To come back to self is just coming back into this space of my own self, in right here, right now, and allowing all that is there, and noticing if I feel some kind of, push or intensity inside of myself, or something that wants to flow, but I'm blocking, as we grow up, as we participate in society, or whether we bring all of these things from other lifetimes, it matters not. But there's we as human beings with a society, within society, we do learn how to suppress certain things, and that's not always a bad thing. Not everything is a bad thing, because it's just helps us go around. And it's not always good to say everything we think. It's just, sometimes can be rude and all sorts of things. But there is like a regular time that you need to take, each one of us have to take for ourselves, where we just allow, probably best is to do it every day when we come back to self, just breathe and allow all of those things that didn't express either today, or in the last week, or in the last month, or last year, or never perhaps in this lifetime, to just flow, to flow. And also feel, always when you're doing this, first we feel the love, the self-love, and the acceptance, and allow that part of soul to feel with us, that unconditional acceptance of everything. And then it all can flow. And some of the things are really so hard to feel. They're so uncomfortable to feel, to allow all of those things to come up. And it is not always that the things that are hard to feel, not always like a negative, bad thing or anything like that. Depending on our experiences, our life story, perhaps things that we had to suppress were good things about ourselves. Perhaps we needed to keep ourselves small. And this is very true for many within these circles, because you came into this life, because integrating soul is not like the last thing. You've worked on this for a long time. And then as you are aware and you realize your own power, not power over others, but power, empowerment as a creator, as a creator of your own reality. Perhaps you have all sorts of talents, or you find easy to do things or shift from one state into another, and all of these things that in general other people cannot do. And there may have been, when you were growing up, jealousy from your friends, from your siblings, could also be from your parents, or it just wasn't safe to let yourself be so empowered, especially, as a child or as a young adult, and perhaps at jobs you need to fit in with or whatever. And so there are so many things that, these kind of things, good things about ourselves, like our strength, our empowerment, our wisdom, our knowledge, also can be very uncomfortable to feel and very scary. For me, like, let's say had to, an event happened about a year ago, and then I didn't properly stand up for myself at that time. And this event just kept on coming back to me all throughout the year. And I didn't realize how that it was affecting me throughout the year. And it was just in this last month and the last couple of weeks that, the parts of me that kind of felt like those what we call sheep, the sheep, more scared parts of myself, those were very uncomfortable with with the fact that I had to stand up for myself. They would bring all sorts of very, very uncomfortable feelings, and even though I've stood up for myself, a lot, but it just depends whether, who and what kind of situations bring these things up. So all to say is that there are so many uncomfortable feelings that come with some parts that come home, or some parts that do something for the first time, you know and I couldn't help but notice also, that in many ways, like, the sign of times is a lot of clearing. All of the things are coming to light, like whether it's, within the politics, within the business, within all of the institutions and all of these things. And yet it requires, all of those things require also a personal action, a personal standing up for ourselves, for each one of ourselves, in relationship, when you become aware of something, that whatever is playing out in the large space, in the outer space out there, also means in our personal life, and especially if things trigger you, like the political things and stuff. I find that normally it triggers because there is also a similar theme happening. Perhaps, I've noticed that in my life, that something was happening in my life also that was similar to that. And it was easier to get pissed off at a politician or something like that, when it was actually I needed to take action within my own personal life with regards to something or someone that was very similar in the field, or in whatever was happening. And so, there are so many things going on at the moment, and things are building up and building up, the energies, the weather, the things in the world. And it can actually be overwhelming, the online world, which is a whole new dimension, whole its own dimension, of course, the world of AI and so much. And so it really does require us to come back to ourselves at least once a day. I kind of made a commitment just in the last few days to really practice this, not only, like, let's say when I wake up, I sort of come back to myself, and I remember certain dreams, and I remember and I feel into the dreams, because your psyche, your soul always speaks to you, and for those that perhaps are aware, you can notice how your dreams are very can be very vivid, and also that they can someone else that may be playing a part, and you think, oh wow, that person or that friend is like this and like that. But within my dreams, within your own dreams, people are only playing parts that are quite unacceptable to you. So for me, like, there was a friend of mine that keeps reoccurring for me in dreams, and it was in when I was a teenager. She was a few years older. I used to be jealous of who I thought she was, and she represented to me a certain feeling, a certain way of being, the confidence, that all of these kind of things that I wanted them for myself in those times. I haven't seen her for a couple of decades in a real life now, but I realized when she's playing herself in my dreams, I realize it's actually my own part that she's playing, and that this part is saying, wow, you haven't allowed me to be part of yourself. You haven't allowed yourself to feel, to be in this way. You haven't allowed yourself to earn these feelings. And so these are the kind of things that, for example, I wake up in the morning and these kind of insights and knowingness and realizations happen. And then during the day also, I've been now taking time to just sort of go into myself and feel where there is pressure, what needs to be released, what needs to be where I need to take a breath in and just release it and let it flow. And it's just more and more things keep flowing and flowing. Um, and just remembering who I am, that I am the soul having a human experience. And this is the kind of stuff that is such a support. There is an overview feeling to having being a soul, or being aware that I am a soul, and there is the underlying joy of it all that's always present. I can also get frustrated and all sorts of things because all of the emotions, all of the feelings are part of me, are available to me, but it does require on a continual basis the work as well. Work meaning, to consciously connect with yourself, to consciously affirm yourself, to consciously remember that I am the soul. And it is not with words, it's that incredible feeling. And that feeling can be present throughout the day, because there are some very, very unique, things that also go with being filled with your soul, having this kind of awareness, because then your energy is quite different. And for the most of the part, you can get along well with everyone, with people in the shops and stuff. But some people that are in that very, very negative way do get triggered and have a big reaction. They can have a big reaction because all of a sudden, they become your light without you even saying something, without me even saying something, just being in that space. They can't play their games anymore because there is light, there is consciousness present, and that can trigger some people in quite a full-on way. There also is kind of like almost these, unconsciousness or the darkness, uh, somehow is also fighting back, so to speak. It doesn't want to be changed because there's so many energies and there's all these spirits from near earth realms and stuff they don't want the light of consciousness. And so sometimes, there is a feeling of also in some ways being targeted by these things. So it is not, an easy walk in the park existence to be a being of that carries consciousness, that is allowing consciousness in this world, and all sorts of things happen, and especially with these spirits. I can even see them, with some people who are quite unconscious. You can actually see them or feel them because they're attached to a person until there's enough light in that person, and then these spirits sort of release. I've had in my early 30s, when, even though I was always into the new age and stuff before, I really started to become aware of this soul presence. I had like a few months when all of a sudden intense stuff has started happening, where like what I thought was a being of light was showing itself to me at night. And almost it was so present that I could almost, when you have your eyes closed, I could see this being of light by my bed. And then when I opened the eyes, there was like a few milliseconds or even a second where I could even still see, like it was almost physical. That's how strong this presence I was feeling. And that presence alone actually uh scared, or how can I say, unattached those kind of spirits of near earth realm. And every time one of them detached and left because they couldn't stand the light, I could actually, it released the memory and the feeling and the emotion of when it attached. And it had to do with the trauma points. So as I was having trauma points as I was growing up, that actually opens your energy up to um, these kind of entities, near Earth realm entities, to attach like vampires, and then they suck your energy. And when they all left, it was, the feeling of it was incredible, because and I thought, wow, there is no way that I could have healed myself without them detaching, because they are so uncomfortable. And I can't even describe that feeling of when they are attached, how horrible that feels. And it's just this ever-present dim darkness that is always present when they're there. And this is the state of many, people have these things. And it's not really that it's their own fault in this way. It has to do with all the trauma, and so because the world and people having, so many quite difficult experiences, very traumatic experiences, in all these constant conflicts and things like that, that's where, these spirits get attached, and they then feed a person to feed, they feed on the person, but they feed them those addictions, and or whatever kind of addictions and stuff. They keep the person in that dimness of light, quite unconscious. And so regardless of all of these, I sort of normally, very often, and it's not very fashionable to kind of talk about these things, and also because, people could be scared, or sometimes in the spiritual circles people can talk about just the beautiful things and stuff like that. But these are very real experiences that people are having. And the best thing about all of these things, there is just that you continually, just the more soul you feel, the more all of these things, none of these things can really touch you, because then you have, this, or how can I say, it's like an anointing oil, sacred oil around yourself, that all of these kind of things just wash off or don't even come anywhere close. They're not even aware of you. But if you do go through some kind of stress, your consciousness can just slowly be dim, 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 more and more dimmed, and all of a sudden you're in a very, very different kind of space. And the reason why I'm sort of going into these things is because, these energies now are very, very accurate as to how they reflect your state of beingness. And that is why these kind of practices and daily, on a daily basis, a few times a day, it doesn't have to be long, but they're more and more important. But and especially because so much is releasing, so much is coming out of all of these most darkest of places, all of the secrets, all of these energies that were stuck for centuries, they are clearing and releasing. And they're always looking for things to attach if they can. And so it's best to just keep making sure that you are in that space of consciousness, of knowing who you are, feeling your own soul. And it's not that you would get lost, but you can actually lose a few months, or a year, or a month, or whatever it is, to kind of, get swept away by certain things. And that is, there's so much stuff to get swept away by, like on the internet and all the news and causes and things like that. And it is so subtle and so easy to get to shift that consciousness within yourself from wanting good, uh, wanting like all these beautiful positive thing, to actually shift and not wanting into feeling what you don't want. So I know it's such a fine distinction, but it is a huge distinction in how you manifest. Because like, if you keep focusing on what you don't want, so for example, let's say if you look at things around and all these things coming to light in politics and whatever have you, and then you keep thinking, oh, I don't want that, I'm angry with that, I hate that, I don't like that, how horrible, and all of these things, you see how then all of a sudden the radiance within you, all of a sudden you're radiating these things. You're radiating, you think you're still in that same space, but it's not, it's shifted. So now all of a sudden you're radiating anger, hatred, dislike. And these are those things that not that they are wrong in themselves, because they're all part of you, but they do slowly but surely, bring that joy. They put like a muffle or a lid on that joy, or that free expression, the free flowing joy that can be you. And then you can then just shift, and it's a slight shift, to instead of focusing, I dislike this, I hate this, to feeling what it is that you want. Perhaps it is justice, fairness, all of whatever it is that you want in relation to that thing. But it is also important, and these are some of those things of mastery, that we, each one of us, are learning for ourselves, how to have finesse and how to be savvy with these things. Is like how do I switch from this to this? And also, how do I manage to also be able to still see what is, because being real and being authentic and being in this space of now moment and being conscious means that you see everything. You see more and more. More and more as your consciousness expands, you see and feel and experience more and more. And so then, of course, within this space, then each one of us, then needs to learn these kind of fine distinctions, these kind of fine ways of being that, that can, that we have to each practice, practice all, not all the time, but this is why kind of we're here too, to learn how to navigate or with feelings and with emotions and with all these new things. So as more and more new things come into each one of our awarenesses, then also these requires new tools, new ways of dealing with those things and those awarenesses. And so practicing these things, it's what also gives that good feeling, of being not the master of your own creations in the old sense where, like where the mind thought, oh, I'm just going to be controlling everything. Not at all, but it's kind of more like, let's say, if you jump into the swimming pool and if you don't know how to swim, that's, let's say, your first time you encounter water, then that's the feeling. That's kind of like what it is like when every time we expand into a new realm or into a new perception or higher vibration or however that you want to say this. It's like jumping into a pool without ever having this experience before. And then, of course, you can learn to swim. You realize that as a soul and as a spirit, you actually very quickly learn how to swim. And yet, as long as you are physical, if you want to be a good swimmer, you have to continually do it, because your otherwise your muscles will atrophy and you lose condition. I think that's what they say. You lose the ability to swim well and stuff like that. So it's actually, all of the physical things are part of a bigger picture. And so they reflect the inner processes. So the inner processes are also like this. It's just like, let's say, if you did swim a lot and you practice every day and you get better and better, you become a master at it. And it's not you against anyone else. I mean, unless you go into competitions, but it's you getting better than you were, getting more masterful at how you sort of navigate through the water. It's, looking after your muscles and all of these kind of things. So this is an analogy for the inner processes. And so in the same way, like there is so much opportunity every day to practice. How does insight come to you? How do you feel it? How does knowingness feel to you? And as I'm talking, you can practice, you can feel it, allow it to be the truth for you. Your knowingness, feel it. How does it, this is what each one of us inside of ourselves needs to be comfortable with and needs to be aware of and needs to feel and needs to know what's what. How does knowingness feel to you? How does your soul communicate with you? It communicates, let's say, through dreams. It communicates through synchronicities. through, when you see 11:11 or 22:22 on the clock or 3:33 or something. And it's not that these things mean something in themselves, they don't carry meaning, but it's like if you note those kind of things. Like, for example, I noticed that when I'm sort of feeling something, and I can give myself confirmation by opening their eyes, and all of a sudden I see 3:33. And that, like, let's say I might have just been thinking about something I'm going to do or change or whatever, and I open their eyes and see that number, and it's like, yeah, that's a confirmation that I'm on the right track. And these are kind of signs that greater you speaks with you in these ways. And so there is really no limit as to how you allow all these things to play in your life, and how the synchronicities work. Because the more you work with this in this way, the more then your greater you is able to communicate with you in this way, until you perhaps you don't even need these kind of symbols. But the thing is, it's not even about needing or not needing. There comes a point where you just realize, wow, it's just simply fun. It's lovely for your own life to communicate back to you through all of these kind of things. And it's very, very different from someone, let's say, who is still at the beginning on a new age, or wherever, that don't feel this real breathing, living connection with their own greater self, that uses, for example, these things to, they may say, okay, oh, look, I'm seeing number 9 all the time. I better go and read a book, and the book will tell me what that means. And that also, a soul in an unconscious person can use that, because the soul is very aware of your life. And so it can use that to communicate much more indirectly with a person. But then it comes a point where you don't need books to tell you what certain numbers mean, because it's you decide what they mean to you, and how the life can actually communicate with you. And this is so important now, because there's so much information coming at us, and there is so much, like every day, like we hear the pros for something and then the cons for something. And it's hard to really know what is, without these kind of knowingness, it's hard to know what is real and what is true for you and what is not. But when you are connected, when I'm in my heart, I get feelings for all of the things. I feel, yeah, better look at this more closely. And then I see, wow, this is a person very anti something. And so, maybe they're even lying, or exaggerating something to make their point. So that's just a simple example. But in all of these things, you have access to, and you can utilize your greater self. And then the funny thing is, what happens is that people have no idea how you know what because you're operating in a much bigger space. And so you can see, it's kind of like, it's kind of like, if there is, like, let's say, with a cat that is running after the red dot, which really is the light. Someone's holding the light in their hand and moving it for the red dot to go around. And so it is with our world, the same. Like, there are layers behind layers behind layers. And so you can actually see, if you expand, you expand further and further, and you can see the cause and effects of certain things, and that's why, like, certain things are not surprising to you, you know, and And because you can see how they work, or you can see what's going on behind the scenes. Not see as in like, Superman eyes or something, but just you can feel it. You can feel the realities behind. And so play with this more and more, as much as what you can, to make it really real for each and every one. And you can utilize any tools. I know a lady that's using tarot cards, and it's not normal. She's just picked some cute ones from, that she likes the pictures of. And again, there is no power in the cards themselves, and don't give them any power in that way. But you can actually utilize them for your soul to speak with you through symbolism, through whatever they mean to you, and so you can actually establish many, many different ways of this communication, that you can feel, and you can hear, and you can read, and you can know what your greater self, what your soul self is communicating to you, what signals it's giving you, the intuition, the feelings, the turn left, turn right, or stop for a bit, or stay inside for a bit, or, the mind will say, oh, you should be doing something, you should be doing something. And the heart says, no, it's a little bit of a cave time for a few days, or, until the energies that are so crazy calm down a bit. Because really, the energies, they keep culminating and culminating. And again, January and February, big months, but March, April too are huge months. And so much is happening planetary wise. So much is happening, we're going into the equinox, all of these kind of eclipse season and things like that. So yeah, it feels very, very intense. And for myself personally, I've had, quite a bit of cave time again. And it's just to sort of, in my own peace and in my own space, process, rather flow all that is coming at me. And it's not that it's directed at me, but it's just whew, that there's so much, the intensities, that are going on is very, very full on. And so, a lot of people are can be feeling dizzy or have headaches and all kind of things like that. And that too is normal, for those days when it's so full on with intensities. And yet at the same time also, the ability to hear, to feel the presence, to know, to have the answers straight away from yourself, to the guidance system can be so clear and so loud, almost, the feelings, how quickly, like, as I decide to choose to deal with something, how quickly it moves, and how quickly everything just changes, and how quickly I can shift from one state of being into another. It's quite astounding as to what is possible now compared to how it used to be, So with these big energies becomes this responsibility to to practice your own presence, to practice your own self-love. And also then, this journey of self-respect and self-love, it's not always easy either, because what I was just pondering on this morning, how, if you're respecting your own self, out of that respect and out of self-love, there is, because it keeps going to the next level. And so there are a lot of situations that people that are not awakened put up with and think are normal. But when you are in this self-love and self-respect, there are many things that I just cannot put up with anymore, because out of self-love, out of respect, it just seems not only barbaric, but just it's not okay, and so it's not always easy with other people, and other people also, as much as they can want to be helpful, they too don't know where I'm coming from because they might be in a very different level, and to them certain things are okay and normal, and they don't know why I'm making a fuss about something, and so it's important to kind of keep coming back to myself and to be okay to be the only one to make the fuss about something. But it's not always a comfortable position, and it's not always easy for all parts of me. A lot of parts of me would just like to flow, not stir up anything, and but it's just not possible unless I keep suppressing myself, or unless I'm not acting in a true way to myself, in authentic way, in a respectful way to myself. Because this being respectful is gone to self and self-love, and to others then, of course, has gone to next levels. And these next levels, it's funny because one week I'm fine with something, and then next week, all of a sudden, I notice something. I'm thinking, wow, but yeah, that's been happening a whole lot. And all of a sudden, it's not okay anymore. And then I have to do something, I have to act on it. It's not always enough just to feel and to process on the inside, but I have to act on it. And I know that it can be, a good example to others, but it does require like a next level, of being okay with me, being okay with even if I'm not liked, or whether I'm liked or not liked, is for me to like and to approve of things that have happened, during the day. Because as one thing to be just, with yourself, with my own self, with my own space. But as soon as I go out and do certain things, all of a sudden, then other people come into play, and their ideas of things and their quality of things and what they consider okay and not okay. And again, it's not like they are doing the certain things on purpose or out of maliciousness or anything like that. It just is, it's a very different standard of respect, self-respect, and self-love. And people in general, even though, for example, let's say, I live in a country where it's considered that people are respected. But even now here, I find that this soul respect is next level and doesn't fit with so much as to what people put up with, or rather don't even realize they're putting up with, and that is not okay. And so this kind of point of separation again happened, another one, or whatever it is, that really there are these two different ways of being. It's the awakened and the non-awakened, and they're quite different in small ways and in big ways, and it will be interesting to see how this all continues to play out. But I've become certainly much more aware again on how important it is to continue to allow and be open within myself. Not that that can be closed again, that interaction between soul and human, or rather the interface, between physical world and the world of spirit is permanently opened in us. And this is what we wanted. And yet, it does affect so many things, and other people feel it, and it requires, that acting on self-respect and self-love. I can do it within my own home on my own, but as soon as I go out, there are different kind of layers of things that I have to work with. And that too is another one of those things that each one of us deals with in our own way, in our own life. But just to sort of make sure that we don't start to again feel out of place, because for many of us, this is what previous life has been all about: feeling out of place, feeling not part of things, because we always did carry this seed, and this, even though it wasn't as developed, and it hasn't unfolded before up to this level as it is now, we always carried it inside of us. And this I wanted to mention, what an incredible journey, like if each one of us looks back at life, whatever we were aware of as a child. But as a child, you grow up and you go to school, and you think about, okay, what am I going to become, the profession and the family, creating family and having children and all of these kind of things, or not, all of these kind of things. And then all of this happens, the awareness, the soul, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's quite sci-fi situation, isn't it? To be able to realize the presence of the spirit to a degree that it is now available to each one of us, So let's marvel at our lives and at who we are, and also at all of the work that we've done, and especially for those of us that perhaps are, a bit older in years, because we were born in very, very different energy, in very, very different circumstances, and where things were very thick, and yeah, it was things were very different. Even now, sometimes, I get surprised how sometimes when I speak with people who would call themselves completely non-spiritual, and I sort of get ready to kind of explain something in a big analogy or something, and then I'm surprised at how quickly and with what, how, in what few words they can get certain concepts that, for example, in the old days, we would need like a big channel session. We would need to sort of slowly work ourselves into this meditative state, when we met like this, and then the energy would lighten up, and then the real stuff would come through after we've done quite a lot of work. But now in today's days, people, especially, younger people, they can get things just like this, or it's so obvious. Certain things are so obvious to them, and normal and part of life. And that too is here really also to support us, it with all of the stuff that I said, and very often each one of us throughout our lives and the journey and the work we had to do have perhaps felt part of this journey has been to feel lonely and loneliness, when we were the only one perhaps out of everyone before on the internet and before online and stuff. And perhaps for some of us still is, because we do, each one of us need to spend that quality time alone. And because we are that carving out, that pioneering, we're always at the edge, at the front line of something new. And so we're aware of new before other people are. And that can actually have this kind of real loneliness with it as well. Like out of group, being out of a group. But more and more I'm realizing how that too is just a perspective as well, because there is so much support. If I notice it, there's so much support, and people in nature, in all of the things, and in spirit, our non-physical friends, they support us whether they know it or not. But there is so much encouragement and support and kindness and just beautiful things in everyday lives, and in everyday things. And very often, because if you've been focusing on allowing and fixing things and healing and all of that, the focus has been for so long on what is not working. And again, it's that quick flip, from what is not working to seeing, because it's easy to not notice the all the good and all the wonderful. It's kind of like uh, if we I notice certain things only until I don't notice certain things when they're working, and then I realize how good it is when they're working. When they break or something, that's when I realize, oh my gosh, how good it is, everything most of the time, when it's just working, when it's just smooth. And majority of the stuff is working and smooth, even with all the calamities and the chaos of humanity and all these things that are happening. Majority of things are just working. And even with the weather and stuff, uh, they're just working. Like in our area, we've had some big rain events again. Today was 40 degrees, so big. Then in the afternoon, big storms with huge lightning and thunder around. And even a few years ago, maybe two, even three, I would lose power for a few hours here and there or whatever. Some people lost power for a few days, but this year, nothing. Everything's just working. And so, like, it's quite incredible how much, when I shift the focus from what is not good, what is not right, to what actually works, how many things, even just me sitting here now, how many things are working. Everything is working, for me to be able to, not just the tech and the lights and the air conditioning and the, my roof above my head and all of these kind of things. How many things are working well? And so, let's take this time for the next month, let's shift from always looking at what is not well with this world into all of the things that are well in this world. And that includes me very much. So, that shift is so important. And we are asked now to do that and to notice when I'm focusing on dum dum dum, this is not working, this is not working, to do that subtle shift into what is working, how well it's all running, how good it feels to be me, each one feeling that, just how wonderful it feels. And what a world of opportunities to be feeling so, to be feeling knowingness, to have the intuition, to feel so right and so well within myself. these kind of things are incredibly precious. And let's cultivate that. Let's feel that. And let's do the practices until it becomes, until it becomes a habit or a way of being, a default way of being. And then we can allow those kind of parts that have never, that are knocking on the door of our consciousness, to accept them, to allow them to flow into ourselves, to own them. And the new times, these new times, there is opportunity for each one of us. And again, there are new times for humanity in general, for the world, for the earth. But the new times must also be reality for each one of us, for each one of our lives. And that means that we feel ourselves in a way that as never before. What I mean is these parts that are knocking on the door of our consciousness to come in, they feel quite strange maybe at first, or like they belong to someone else, or like with that dream that I was, those dreams that I was mentioning earlier. I realized I never actually owned or felt. I always wished for that to be that kind of person, but I never really felt or owned it. And so this part of me that also wishes to be expressed, it's not a coincidence that this part was always there, but I stopped it from flowing in. I didn't own it. I didn't feel it. I didn't be it. But now in this new space, we do allow these completely different ways that each one perhaps we've never been before, we've never felt before, we've never owned before. And perhaps you realize that, wow, but I always wished I felt like that, or I be like that. There is this image, and then you can realize that how much all of this is all about you, about feeling, because that other person perhaps that represented that is not aware. Maybe they're not even like that. If I projected certain things, or maybe they do carry certain attributes, but that feeling that I always had, that person invoked in me, that is my feeling. And to own that. And that goes also, for mm, the difficult things, the so-called negative emotions and feelings. For example, let's say if a person gets triggered, or you open the news or something, or a lot of people now get triggered by the president of USA, and triggered to the point of beyond anything, to the point of looking unhinged, in the way they're triggered and emotional and everything like that. And the thing is, to realize, even if you're triggered a little bit and it triggers you into that negative mode of being within yourself, you realize that, oh my God, these are my feelings. These are my feelings. I just can switch off the device, the TV, or whatever. But if these feelings are still there, and your mind just keeps going round and round with this, these are your feelings. What you feel is yours. You are feeling, even though someone's triggering. And the mastery has to do with being able to deal with your feelings and emotions and everything that happens. And so, if you don't know already how to shift from one perspective to another, practice that, shifting into, because if you're feeling angry about something, this is your feeling. If president triggers you, these are your feelings. You carry around your feelings and own them, and then you can shift them, and then you feel very, very self-empowered as you continually to do these kind of things, because this playing with consciousness really primarily, I mean, the life around is pretty much a reflection, of course, and of course it needs a lot of action in the physical world. Just like for anyone, looking after your house, looking after this, looking after that. But the mastery, where it's really on the inside, you know, how much you understand, how much you notice, how much you understand your messages from you to you, how your knowingness, how that feels, how your intuition feels, how your heart feels, how it feels when your heart is excited about this or that. This is one of those things that, as normal people, we've had to suppress, because you as a society, pushes you into, no, you can't do this, what your heart says, you have to suppress and do this. And the way the jobs are, for people, how they're organized, they're not around the heart. And so people are experts at each one of us experts at suppressing ourselves in our heart. And it sometimes, of course, it's too painful to know what your heart would want, really. Because, especially if you have mortgages, if you have kids, if you have responsibilities, you have to. So again, for those that are in that, you still find that little spaces to connect with self and to allow your soul presence with during the day, even if it is 2 minutes here and 2 minutes there. It does require you to come back to self, and listen to your heart and learn how it speaks, learn how it feels, learn how it speaks to you, to show you, yes, this is the reality. Yes, do this step. Yes, turn this way. And then you never really have to wonder. There's so many things you don't have to wonder anymore. Am I doing the right thing? Am I choosing the right thing? It's without a doubt. I mean, doubt can come and be with that. But when you feel you with your heart will tell you 100%, with 100% assurance, yeah, do this, or not, and don't do that, go this way, turn this way, stop, take a step. Heart has no doubts. The doubt system it's not part of the heart. It's a part of you, but yeah, it can interfere. But yeah, relearn, if you haven't already learned, to listen, to hear, to feel, and to understand this inner language, how it is for you. Like I can say, okay, for me, this is what it feels like. But for each person, it's different, because we each one are unique, and it keeps changing too. You know, it's never boring or it's never dull. And so I'm just gonna have a drink. I think we've come to the end. Okay, so oof, all this stuff going on in the world and with us and inside of us, and oh my gosh, the year has just started. And so much has already happened. And so, dear friends, until next time, thank you for joining. You are appreciated, and I appreciate and honor each one. Thank you.